Um, Hi everyone, welcome to Rank Advancement Club. Lovely to see you all. Yes, it's being recorded now for those of you that aren't able to make it to the live recording. So we're going to go straight into our training, and then if any of you got questions or want to talk about any structure or anything like that afterwards, then I'm happy to take you through anything you need to. But we're so blessed tonight, so blessed to welcome our very special guest who's just sneaking on right here. Rebecca Bowles, round of applause.
Oh, well, thank you.
And it is, I can barely get time to talk to her, guys. So you're very privileged to hear from Rebecca. Share the screen, yeah. So Bex is going to talk to you tonight about not how to teach a hosted class, but she's going to talk to you about how to get a hosted class. Okay. Now she's going to give you tips and things, what she does. She's really very good at it. She'll be humble about it, but she is very, very good at it. Over the years, that's one of the ways that we have built our business. I'd say probably the biggest way is through hosted classes, right? Mm-hmm. The biggest way of building it is through hosted classes. And the reason why hosted classes are so good, and Bex will talk to you a bit about this a little bit as well, but hosted classes are very cost effective. They take very little time as a finding activity, because you're getting someone to host who's going to find the people for you and bring them to their house, okay, or their, or to a venue that you've agreed. They're bringing them, so the finding is much better. You can sample through that, and generally the cost of it, I mean, you never really cost you anything, has it?
No, unless they hire a venue.
Unless they hire a venue, or we've given the odd product here or there. Generally, most people do it just to have a class. So it's very, very cost effective and very good. But there are tips to get people to encourage them more to do it, and Beck's going to talk to you about that. So no, Chrissy's admitting everyone. So is that still all right, Chrissy, to admit everyone that comes in? Thank you. So I'm going to turn the time over to Rebecca.
Thank you.
And then I'll come back on. So I don't know what I did with it. I haven't downloaded from there, so I just put it like that.
Perfect.
So I'll just share my screen. There you go. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, baby. I'm in here, slot in. Hello, good evening, everybody. It's lovely to be here. So I'm gonna put a pillow under the computer actually and try and make it better height. That's better. There you go. It's so nice to see you all. I'm just gonna flick through and just see who's here. It's nice to kind of know who I'm talking to a little bit. Lovely. Hello. Oh, thanks. It's nice for those with the cameras on. I understand those who don't have your cameras on as well. Don't worry. I am often one of those, but it's nice to see some faces. So thank you for those who are showing your faces. That's lovely. Okay. So as Nathan said, I'm going to talk about one of the best ways to build your business and easiest ways. And do you know what? Since obviously the COVID hit and we had to move more online, you can do hosted classes online as well. So, I mean, in the past, how we built our business was generally more face-to-face, right? But you can apply all these things I'm going to talk about to getting online hosted classes too, because they are special because you get to make them more intimate as you do a normal class when you're doing hosted face-to-face. So just in case there's anyone out there that's thinking, what is a hosted class? Pretty much in the name. So hosted class is when you ask someone else to host a class for you. And generally speaking, I say to them, if you can try and, you've invited about 15 people to try and get between 5 and 10 people to a hosted class, that's an ideal amount. That's what I try and encourage. Having said that, if someone is willing to host a class for me and I see their eyes drop, or that, they don't go, oh yeah, that's fine, which lots of people do say, then I'll go, or see how many you can get. I'm sure we can work with it, because obviously anyone you get from a hosted class is a bonus, right? Someone you haven't had to go and find. Especially if it's an online hosted class, then it's totally worth doing it for just one person, right? If they can invite one person. So it runs exactly the same way as a class does. I teach the same class, but I do make it more personal. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that later on. One thing you can start to do when thinking who can host a class for me is actually going through that 100 list or 40 list or 50 list. Doesn't have to be 100 people. That's just the name. But that 100 list is so good to have. And if you haven't done it yet, or even if you're a few years into your business, like we are, I'm redoing my 100 list again. I've done it a couple of times throughout my doTERRA career. So it's never a bad thing to redo, because it's something you can always refer to and keep asking different questions about your list, right? So one of the questions could be, who on my list is influential, may not be interested in the oils so much themselves, but they could get a group of people to a class, right? So there's different questions you can ask about your 100 list. So Nathan spoke a little bit about this already. Benefits of a hosted class, man. I mean, we often talk about how do we expand our contacts, and people often come to blocks in that. If you can get a hosted class from every single class you do, you will never run out of contacts and classes, okay? So one of my intentions that I always had in my head when I went to a class, sometimes even bigger than in my head, how many enrollments I'd quite like to get, without putting too much pressure on myself. I would have in my head, I want to come away with at least one hosted class. And if I did that, then that was even more successful to me than signing up a couple of people sometimes. I'd get really excited about that hosted class. Obviously, you want both, but if you have that as one of your clear intentions, you're more likely to come out with a hosted class, right? Great finding activity, and class attendees are found for you. So it doesn't take too much energy from you. You skip out all that kind of having to find people. So it's so worth it. And also these people, even though they're not your warm contacts, they are the warm contacts of that guest. So this is where it becomes really important that you build a relationship with the host, because then you can kind of tap into their warm contacts, and the warm contacts, the host's contacts will trust you if you have that relationship with the host. So they become kind of semi-warm. They're not warm to you, but they are warm through your host. So way better than just colder contacts, right? So that's really good. It's also great because often I have had people who do hosted classes ask me about the business, because it really presents a good opportunity at the end of a class, especially if they've had enrollments. But even if they haven't, don't be embarrassed to still kind of bring this up, because they still would have got the energy of the class. They don't know what's a normal amount of people to sign up. They don't know how this goes, but they will get real good exposure to what the business is through hosting a class for you. So it's often a really good way to turn people into builders, a softer way. Often you find more hosted classes as well from other hosted classes. I find that's the case because, especially when you if you give a gift or you talk about the process with the host a bit, and people see the relationship you've built up with the host and see how a hosted class runs, and they can see how intimate it is, then they often will want to duplicate that with their friends and family. So it's often the easier classes to then book further classes from. And yeah, it's just a given, isn't it? You get to turn one contact into 5 to 10 contacts. So it's so worth the effort, and just practicing it all the time, and just not forgetting that the hosted class method. And, if it doesn't happen for you and you've asked a few people, don't give up, because it's one of those things that it's well worth just keep asking. As long as you do it naturally and non-pushy, you will get some hosted classes, and it's so worth it when you do. Okay. So hosted classes, this is what we're going to talk about tonight. So we are going to talk about how to get them, the different ways that I've got them. Please feel free to put in the chat if you've done something different to what I've done. And there's always people doing things differently, which is fab, and we can learn from each other. So please add the chat for that. We're going to talk about how to help the host invite their guests and increase attendance. What are my tips for that? How to prepare the host and what to do at the class to try and get more hosted classes. Okay, so where to get hosted classes? These are generally the places that I get my hosted classes from. So just from a regular class, that could be a live class or an online class, so either or. Hosted classes at a fair. We've always done lots of shows in the past. Your contact list, and that could be friends or non-friend. We'll talk about the difference between them. Online, obviously, when you're interacting online. Excuse me. Shops and venues. I haven't got a slide specifically for shops and venues, but I haven't actually done this, but a couple of my downline have done this really well, where they've made friends with this like health food shop, or doesn't have to be a health food shop, could be like a gym, or I don't know, any place where they're friendly and open to letting you use their space, right? And then you can advertise in their shop. They're often happy with that. And it brings more customers into their cafe or whatever it is that they're doing. So that's a really good opportunity as well to get hosted classes that you're not necessarily have warm contacts coming to that, but it's just a way to tap into someone else's contacts. So that's a really good way. Okay. So if we're talking about a regular class, this could be online, as I said, or live. What is the best way to get a hosted class? So definitely from the very beginning, if you've ever been on to any of my trainings about the class, begins from the warm up, right? So we'll be talking about how you can help to warm up guests that you don't know, because these are coming from your host. But if you haven't had a chance to do that, then the very beginning of the class is the most important time. Before you offer them anything at all, before you even speak to them, it's you kind of standing in a very open way and welcoming them into the class, okay? So being very presentable, very warm, smiling, helping to get that relationship going from the very beginning. So it's really, really important to do that. And then share your intention. Sorry, I've kind of gone off that. That's actually when you're doing a hosted class. So it's very important to do that anyway. But at the beginning of the class, it's about sharing your intention. So you're having your intention in your heads of the things you want to mention, that they can buy at the end. These are the things I always mentioned at the beginning, because I like to be really open and transparent with my classes. So I'd always say at the end of the class, there'll be an opportunity for you to purchase some oils, and I can really help with that. Then also, there'll be quite a few of you probably that will think of friends and family that you will think could benefit from these oils as well. And I'm actually doing an offer. You might be doing an offer that month or something. And I definitely try to have a limited amount of time, because otherwise you get people saying, oh, yes, yes. And it's really hard to commit them to a date. So I usually have some kind of thing like, in the month of October, I'm doing a special deal where you'll get a cleaning spray that smells of Christmas, or, just something that's going to entice people to do it in that month. And I'll share that at the beginning of the class and then refer back to it at the end of the class. And what I'll do at the end of the class quite often is I'll say, for those of you that do want to host, you've obviously attended a general class, a hosted class. That's even my more favorite way of teaching, because I get to really personalize the class and make it more intimate for you and your guests. And we can have lots of fun as well, because people know each other. Yes, I say that. And I'll also say, and if you know what your guests are going to be struggling with, then I'm really happy to give you some samples tonight for that, if you have your oils with you. Or you can say I can send them all free samples, so that they can have an experience of the oils as well. So you're being really, really open and giving. Okay. Some classes you and I've had, and you might have these are the same, when you want to, you're maybe doing some monthly classes somewhere, and you want to encourage people who come to maybe come back and invite a friend. Excuse me. Got a really tickly cough. And you can do this as well by incentivizing them with a gift and say, if you come back, if you want to invite a friend, then I'll be happy to give you and your friend a sample that you want to try as well. So little gifts, little affordable gifts are a great way to incentivize people to share with their friends. This is just an example of a very simple slide. My online class slides are pretty simple. Many of you might have more elaborate ones, but this is what I would always share at the end of an online class. And I'll have a slide specifically dedicated to hosting a class. So helping to share the essentials, I'll just kind of go through it, why they might want to host a class. All they need to do is invite 10 friends. So making it sound very simple as well. It's really important that when you're sharing about a hosted class, that you make it sound extremely simple, that all you need to do is provide the venue, and invite your friends, and I come and do the rest and have a lovely evening where you're educated, uplifted, and get to taste some lovely chocolate infused with essential oils, and just have a really lovely, relaxing evening with your friends. And of course, as a thank you, we'd love to give you some doTERRA products as well. I personally don't specify what doTERRA products, because it will depend on what the sign up rate is right at the class. So I often like to give them something as soon as a host commits to hosting a class. I like to give them something little, usually. It could be a little sample of balance, something that's not in the Home Essentials kit, or like a free app or something like the Droply app is a good one. If any of you have the Droply app, you pay a monthly amount, and then you can then give that to whoever you want. So that's a really good incentive for signing people up in general to a kit. It's something that would encourage people to sign up with you, and they're feeling like they're getting some more worth from that. But that's something you can offer a host. And then you can say, yes, and of course, I'd love to give you some more products at the class, but don't mention what is my recommendation. So here we go. How to get hosted classes from a hosted class. So this is what I was talking about earlier, about the importance of really building that relationship with your host. Okay, so from the time someone commits to hosting a class, you want to contact them, you're not over contact them, but usually a couple of times before the class, and just have a lovely, relationship, friendly manner, connectedness with them. And then as soon as you arrive at the class, and you want to go and just really say thank you so much to your host, and what it means to you, and how you're really looking forward to this evening. So you're just kind of, continuing to build that relationship with them. And then at some point in the class, you want to mention it again, so when you've got everyone's attention, it's good for, the host's guests to see your relationship with the host as well, so that they can see that relationship of trust between their friend and you. That's going to really enhance them to want to buy from you, right? To be able to trust what you're saying. So that's really important. So yeah, thank them again during the class, just say how lovely it's been to kind of have chats with your host, and it's just been a lovely experience, and also to get to know the guests a little bit and to sample the guests, and that this is something you absolutely love doing, and you'd like to give a gift to the host. And some people really, I guess I've had lots of trainings where people really over give the gift to the host in front of everybody. I personally haven't felt really comfortable with that, because that to me just felt a bit salesy, a bit over the top. You can mention for sure that it's lovely to be able to give hosts gifts as a thank you, and you really enjoy doing that. So just do it in a natural way, but it's definitely good to get across that you do give gifts for a hosted class, right? But maybe not give the gift to the host right in front of everybody. Do it your natural way. And then offer other people, say, you guys might want a similar class, you've seen how these classes are, they're very relaxed and intimate, and we can kind of adjust and adapt the class to meet the needs of your friends and family. And that's when you could send round, perhaps if you have a calendar you wanted to send round for that next month of your available dates. And that's a really good way to just kind of gently send that around. But also I just often simply use a feedback form, which I find really gentle and easy. And you just hand that round at the end with the enrolment form. And it just has a little box on it, which was 2 boxes that we use that say, if you want to know more about the business, then just tick here. Or if you're interested in hosting a class, then tick here. So that's really good too. Okay. A fair. That's why I have personally got quite a few hosted classes. It's great because often people you meet at a fair might not live that close to each other. So when you're offering your classes, which, you know, always a very good idea to have dates booked for a class, whether it be online. When you can do live ones, I recommend doing live and perhaps offering an online option as well. But for those that really want that live experience and it's hard for them to get somewhere, you know, mums, or they just live a bit further away from where you're doing the class, it's a really easy way to get a hosted class. And I just find this it flows really naturally. So you imagine you're at a show, you're making that conversation, you're building that relationship, and this could be anywhere, you know, you can relate this to wherever you go and share the oils with cold contacts. And you're building that relationship, you're getting oils on them as soon as you can, you're really kind of having a lovely connection and chatting about the oils. They're falling in love with the wild orange and the peppermint at this moment. And then you invite them to a class at that, you know, optimum time when they've just been blown away by these incredible oils. And then some people might go, oh, where's the class? And you're like, oh, here. And they're like, oh, I don't know if I can make that. He said, well, do you know what, actually, I am doing a special offer at this fair, and this is my preferred way anyway. I'm offering to come to your house for free and do a hosted class. So you don't have to go anywhere. We can do it in the comfort of your own home. You only need to invite, say, 10 people to try and get about 5 people there. And I'll come to you and do this lovely class for your friends or family that's really personal to you. And you don't have to go anywhere. And as well as bringing nice chocolates and educating you all, I'll also give you a free gift as a thank you. So it's a win-win. And that's where lots of people go, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Don't have to travel anywhere, still get that live experience because they've kind of fallen in love with the smell of the oils and they want to have that experience for their friends and also for them. So that's really, I found that very effective. Sometimes in that situation, I've done both, where I haven't given them anything. But what I did start to find is that people were more committed if I had something little to give them there and then. So if they've committed to host a class, I'm like, okay, you know, if you do decide you want to host a class today, and I'll take down your number and let's arrange a time when I can call you. It's usually in about a couple of days. You can chat to them about the class. So you get that set in on your contact thing, whatever, in your diary. And then you offer them your gift. You say, here you go, I'd like to give you a gift as a thank you, and I'll bring some more gifts with me to the class. And one thing you could do is a wild orange at that point, little 5 ml bottle, or you could do a keyring. So the keyring idea I really like, where you could give them 2 samples that you've pre-selected. Balance is a really good one that I would include. I love Balance. You could choose another one, you know, quite an affordable oil, not too expensive, and just put, you know, your 15 drops into 2 sample bottles, so 2 different oils, put them in the keyring, and you can give them the keyring and say, you know what, for every guest that you get to come to the class, I will bring you another little sample bottle of something else. So that really already has got them really incentivized to find as many people as they can to come to their class for you. Okay, and then just make sure you definitely book that time to call. You know, don't let anyone go who's committed to something without having that next step in that commitment process. So you definitely want to, you don't want to just say, oh, I'll call you in a couple of days. You say, okay, when's a good time to call? Let's arrange a time now, and literally have the day and the time that you guys are next going to connect. Okay, so how to get a hosted class from asking a friend. Often friends can be the hardest ones. I don't know if you experienced that. First of all, you don't want to be that bouncing Tigger that literally goes to all your friends and gets really excited and just asks everyone to host a class for you, because that will generally pee your friends off. Okay, so like with everything, you know, with your friends, it's probably even more important to make sure you go in with the oils and your passion with the oils first of all, and how the oils are going to help them. So you go through that way and build your relationship with them, and then do it like you would with anyone else, just in a very natural way. You know, once they start falling in love with the oils, and with some friends, obviously you've got that connection, you can be a bit more bold, but it's then about presenting to them, you know, you'd love to host a class with them. You'd love to do a hosted class, because then you can make it more personal and they're more fun. And, you know, again, you can ask, I have asked some people to do me a favor, so you can take that approach. Even with really good friends, I haven't really loved that feeling that I have when I've, you know, when you've asked them to do a favor. It's a very different vibe. Whereas if you can more kind of get them to really want to have a class by selling it to them in that way that, you know, they really want to, because it's going to be fun, it's going to be educational, and it's going to be personal to them. And it's about getting a group of friends together and having a lovely evening with some chocolate and essential oils. So that's always the angle I go. Okay, if it's not a friend, so say there's someone on your contact list, this is what I'm meaning by not a friend, someone on your contact list, or someone that you've kind of just started to get to know, and you're not very good friends with them necessarily, they're more just you're just building a relationship with them. Again, it's the same way. So just kind of going with the oils first of all. Sometimes, like with the fair experience, you can jump to it really quickly. Other times you just find it when it feels natural. You know, don't push anything. And especially with hosted classes, because, you know, once you have asked for a hosted class from one person and they've said no, it is hard to kind of go back to them, you know, in a short amount of time. You probably need to wait quite a while for them to really fall in love with the oils, and then perhaps present it to them again. So when it comes to hosted classes and your contacts that you're going to be able to see again, I would take the slower route. Okay, at a show, be bold, be as bold as you would like, without sounding desperate. But yeah, be bold. But with friends or people that are you're building a relationship with, I would take the more natural approach for sure. So here's some incentives that can help people host a class. There's lots of ideas here. Please, again, put in the chat if you've done anything differently as well. That'd be really lovely. I know there's loads of different things you can do to give people for hosting a class, basically. Aroma touch massage is quite popular, and I did this quite a lot at the beginning when I didn't have, you know, a lot of product to give, or certainly any money really to spend on oils. So that's a really good one, because it's your time, and generally people are going to really fall in love with the oils when you start massaging them with them. Chocolates, again, great, because it seems way more than it actually is. You know, you can buy some pretty cheap boxes, you know, some lovely presentable boxes made out of card that you could like make some chocolates and give them some nice chocolates with a little ribbon, so it looks really lovely and cost effective as well. You can make some other things. We mentioned the Droply app. Do ask your upline if you don't know about the Droply. It's a really good app, like the Modern Essentials app. It's basically an app run by some advocates in Utah that set up this app, and that's basically gives you testimonials, gives you suggestions of what oils to use. It also gives recipes and that kind of thing, and goes by body systems as well as ailments. So it's a good app. I really like the app, but what I really like about it is the fact that once you've bought it and you pay that monthly fee, which I can't remember exactly how much it is, we have it direct debit, then it covers 100 200, 500 people. So however many people you introduce to the oils, you can then offer that for free. So it's just a really good thing to have. We mentioned the key rings. Diffusers are good, although not great for PV, are they? So depends, that one. Another great idea that, again, I haven't used, but I've heard this, and I'm sure some of my downline have, is to enter a raffle, right, to win oils. So for example, it depends how often you're doing these hosted classes and how many you're doing, but it could be every quarter or every 6 months. You could say, you know, for hosting a class, I'm going to put your name in a raffle where you could win £200 worth of oils. So again, you need to tally up and see how that's affordable for you and where you are in your business. And perhaps that could be a gift. So that's a good idea as well. And what's good about these things is, like it says here with the raffle to win oils, you could use your LRP oils, couldn't you? The ones that you get for your free oil each month, you could put them in there. And just a note on like reinvesting in your business. I strongly believe in reinvesting in your business. I know it's hard when you haven't got much coming in, but the freer you are at the beginning, you know, we always encourage not to overspend. So keep to your, you know, the amount, the 150 PV a month, don't go over that. Apart from sometimes maybe for those 200 PV offers, if it, you know, makes sense to you, but keep to that. But otherwise, view the income you make at the beginning as business money that you will then reinvest, and that will really help to grow your business more quickly. Okay, so you have your hosted classes. We've talked about how to get the hosted classes. How do you now prepare the host to try and make this class the most effective it can be? Because at the moment, these people are cold to you, right? And you don't really probably know the host that well. If you do, that makes it easier. If you don't, this is even more important. So essentially, as I said before, you really want to make sure the whole process is very simple. You know, your host is probably very likely to be very busy and can get put off very quickly if you start saying, I need this from you, I need this from you, or phoning them every other day, or even texting them, or, you know, so from the very beginning, just want to say, look, thank you so much. The first phone call will be like that. Thank you so much for hosting a class for me. As I said to you, it's really simple. You don't have to really do anything at all apart from invite your guests. Now I have something to send you, so you know you can send them the invite. It's really good to have an invite template that you can have the guest either print out. So it's good to have like a printout one. It's good to have an email version, and it's good to have a Facebook invite and anything else you think you might want. So have those templates and give that to your host so that they can just send that out. So there's nothing they have to create. And you just say, yeah, if you could invite 15 people, 10 to 15 people, so we'd get at least 5 people coming to the class. That's the numbers that I've found seem to be the ones that work. And then, yeah, in that phone call, you want to commit them to a date. Oops, emails come up there. Get rid of that. So you want to commit them to a date. Now, this is when you also want to ask if you can contact their guests. So you want to this can be off-putting to some hosts, right? So you need to be careful with this one, but it's really important that you do try and contact the guests that are going to be coming from this host. So this is when you just want to like say to the host, you know, I really want to help make this class, you know, really special and make sure I meet everybody's needs. So is it possible for you to either send me the telephone numbers or create a group for the class, or send me the email addresses of your guests, whichever way you think your guests would prefer. And then just, you know, I'm not going to be bombarding your guests at all. I'm just going to contact them to just, you know, share my excitement that they're coming to the class, but also to offer them a free sample. So I just want to, you know, be able to give everyone a free sample, because that's part of the offer that I do. When I do a class, I like to give free samples. So again, making it about her and her friends. So that's going to sound lovely to her, because she knows you're not going to abuse the contacts. You've already hopefully built up that relationship of trust. So she's going to be willing to hand over those contact details, and you're doing it so that you can offer the guests a sample. Okay. And I've never had a host say no to that. You know, I've maybe had one person, one of the guests, not want to give their contact details. I think I vaguely remember that happening once, literally. And some of those guests won't get back to you when you do contact them. But again, most of them do. Mostly people want a free sample, and you get to build that relationship with them before a class. And that is essential, because that's that sampling 7 touches process that will help them to be able to purchase on the night. So this is really important to help make that hosted class a really effective one. Yes, you're sharing your plan there to help them have a good experience. And then just make sure they know there's nothing really else that the host has to do. They're just providing the venue. I do say, if possible, can you supply just a jug of water, still water? If you have sparkling, the sparkling water is lovely too. And I'll bring some oils to put into those jugs, if you can just supply some glasses. Sometimes they'll ask if you want like light refreshments or anything, and I'll say, yeah, you know, really light if you want to, you know, just some healthy. I won't kind of say I'll make sure they're healthy, because that sounds like you're telling the host what to do, but just say, you know, it's yeah, you could provide a few healthy snacks to go with the you know, the health education of the oils, and I'm going to bring some nice chocolates with me as well. So yeah, that's up to you, but basically just some jugs of water, you know, easy peasy, and glasses, so your host is not feeling overwhelmed. I think I've covered most of this already, but yeah, you want to be taking any work off the host, so helping the host to invite is really important. So when we're talking about contacting the guests then, so we mentioned about sending them an email or a text or whatever, just to introduce yourself, share some enthusiasm, a bit of passion about the oils, and say how you're really looking forward to meeting them. And also they get a free sample before the class. So everyone's entitled to a free sample. So you wanted to make sure your guests, so you can get one. So please let me know what you would like from the list below. So I would send a list then of specific elements that they can then select one of those elements. And I would include something a bit vague as well, in case there is nothing. So I could just like something like energy or mood lifting, so that literally everyone will tick one box. Okay. And then you'll get that back, and then you can send them a sample. And then that's when I would contact them again, like you would with normal, you know, normal follow-up, and just check they've received the sample, and send them maybe a voice note if you've got that as an option, just to kind of explain a bit more personally how to use the oil. I often try and get a phone call in there with them, so I can explain how to use the oil, so they're really feeling like they're being looked after. Okay. And then I often, if there's enough time, I would try and contact them in that follow-up process to see how their experience went. I mean, that's the ideal situation, that you send them a sample, you check they've received it, explain how to use it, and then you get to follow up to see how they've found it as well. And that's really good. And if they haven't had a good experience, then that's fine. It's not bad at all. Oh, gosh. Really tickly throat. It's actually absolutely fine, because you know they're coming to a class in a few days' time. So just reassure them and say, you know, this is one of the reasons I like to give samples before the class, because often it's a bit of a tweaking process. So at the class, I can tell you about the other options that you can do for that specific element, and we will make sure we have time to cover that during the class. And also, you really hope to help to motivate this guest to come to the class, because as you're working with them, you get to know their elements, and you'll say, you know, these will be covered more at the class. And then you can also warm up for the wellness consultation. So it's always kind of warming up for the next steps, and say, you know, at the class, we will cover your specific elements, but I won't go into lots of detail about some of them. But that's when I'll offer at the class a wellness consultation, where we can then go into more detail about your specific element. So you can see at each step, you're kind of just letting them know and giving them a little glimpse of the next steps. So teaching the hosted class, just briefly, because they're very similar to a normal class. It's more just at the beginning that you just make it a bit different. As I've kind of already gone into it, you just really overthank the host, and spend a bit more time inviting others to host a class as well. You definitely want to get there, obviously in plenty of time to set everything up at the hosted class, but also to have time to really connect with the guests. So as
I'm always coming back to you. I'm not going to leave you.
Hello. I thought there was a question, but I think someone's come up by accident, maybe. They're gone. Yeah, so make sure you have time to really chat to each of the guests. So don't be shy. This is a time not to be shy and kind of go into your head a bit and think, what am I going to teach? Let's just run through my class in my head. At hosted classes, it's extra important to go around and say, Jan, we spoke on the phone or we emailed. So lovely that you could come. It's lovely to meet you in person. Just something like that to each of the people. So that connection is now much closer because that physical contact. And again, if it's online, do it online. It's really important before the class to kind of spend a time just welcoming each person and just making that connection, especially if you have before as well, kind of referring back to that connection you've already made with them. People love that and it makes a massive difference. So that is the difference between the hosted class. Okay, and that's it. Let me just get rid of that. So that's the end. Does anyone have any questions at all about hosted classes and any other things that have been shared? Let me have a look in the chat and see if anything's been shared. But as I said, if you can master the hosted class and really spend time and effort on them, will make a massive difference to the growth of your business. It's literally one of our big tactics that we used to get to where we did. It doesn't take as much energy as trying to find all those classes all the time. Let's have a look to see what the chat is. Man, I've got this particularly cough. Droply. Okay, great. So someone's answered that. Gin infusion oils. Yes, definitely. So with the keyring, yeah, I wouldn't give oils that are in the enrollment kit. I would give my kind of favorite LRP oils. So that's why I often go with Balance. What other ones would I use? Balance is definitely my go-to. I like, people often like eucalyptus, copaiba is a really good one. Yeah, emotional oils. So maybe pick your favorite emotional oil. Obviously, if you get to know the host a little bit, then you can find out a bit more about what their specific needs are and give them samples according to what their needs are. That's what I would do. BRT is build relationships of trust. That's a very important acronym. Am I doing always online? No, hardly. Do you know what, for us, we built the bulk of our business, to be absolutely honest with you, before COVID. So most of our stuff was live. That's how we built our business. We did have to switch to online when COVID came, but we weren't doing as many classes then. So yes, I have done lots of online stuff, but the majority of the stuff I've done in the past is face-to-face, live contacts. Yeah, and I used to drive all over the country. That's what I did. We did shows like all over the place. So I drive all over the country to people's homes, but they were like my favorite classes often. It's like going to a home where they've got their mum, their sister, their best friend from next door. You go in and everyone's really friendly and you've already made those connections now. So you feel like you've built up a bit of a relationship. And it's just lovely and it's just a real relaxed feeling. Sometimes they do get the wine out and that's the only thing with hosted classes. I don't know if you've ever been to one where it's gone a bit too far that way. But generally speaking, it's lovely. They're just very relaxed. And also when one signs up at a hosted class, when they've got that relationship, that really has a knock-on effect to the others. So people will follow more to hosted class. So I've often had my biggest sign-ups at hosted classes as well. So they kind of follow each other and trust each other. Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't know if anyone's answered Viv's question there. The Natural Solutions class, I still mainly do the home essentials. I've toyed with different classes, and to be fair for me, and I've spoken to Emily as well, Emily Mascarenhas, because she was with me from the beginning, and she's kind of done the same. We both tried different classes, but generally speaking, we do the 10 core oils class. There is sometimes I will include the odd other product as well, but for me, it just seems to work really well. That's what I found. That's my groove. That's what I feel really good about selling and talking about in that initial class. And it just works for me. But not to say the Natural Solutions class is not a bad one too. It is a really good class. And perhaps if you started off with that one, that will feel more comfortable to you. So I think with all of this in doTERRA, it's what feels most comfortable to you, and because that's what will come across as well. Like if you're not comfortable with it yourself, then that's not going to come across, right? And the most important thing for people to hear is that you're being genuine, and that's what sells the oils when people hear it from you. So you've got to go with what's most comfortable. What do I take to a class? Hardly anything. I don't have really big displays. So I used to take big card banners I actually bought from Viv's amazing shop, which I do love, and I use more at shows and bigger classes. But in a hosted class, I'll just take the oils, deep blue rub, coconut oil, definitely, or some kind of carrier oil just in case, diffuser, a few extra things as well, a couple of On Guard products from the Natural Solutions kit, the Lifelong Vitality, and chocolates. That's all I take. Of course, for a hosted class, I'll take my gifts I'm going to give the host, and depending on what your incentives are, you'll want to take a few of those incentives for future hosts if you're going to give them a gift on the night as well. And I often will have my empty sample bottles in my bag in case I'm going to give samples for them to offer their friends. So I'll never give samples to people at the class for them, but if someone wants to host a class and they commit to hosting a class, that's when I'll offer samples for their friends. But sometimes it will be more of me sending them through the post. And that's another thing I didn't say. If the host is a bit funny about giving out the contacts of her friends, then another way of doing it is to send all the samples to the host, especially if she sees them like on the school run or something, then she might be really happy to just hand them out to her friends that way. So there's always a way around it if you do have someone that is a bit more protective like that. But it's not the ideal. I much prefer to personally send a sample to the people, because then you're building up that relationship, right? Yeah, no. So that's for that reason. So not to, you don't want to take samples for the guests to the class rather than posting them, because that could stop them from purchasing. Right, they'll be like, oh, great, I've got a sample, because people often come to a class and they want to take away something, right? And hopefully it's that, and they've enrolled and they're going to be getting their oils very soon, and that's their something they take away. They've made a commitment. If you go and give samples at the class, then people are usually like, oh, I'll wait to see how this sample works, or yeah, great, I've got something, I'll make a decision in a couple of days. And it just stops them from making that decision that's going to help to change their life, basically. So it's not doing them any good. and it's not doing you any good, it really doesn't help with the close aspect of the class. So I've hardly ever done that. There are circumstances when, you know, you can see someone really umming and ahhing, and perhaps they haven't had a sample yet, or a positive sample, and you're just thinking they need a bit extra, then that's when that personal kind of contact at the end of the class is really important, because you get to know the vibe of that person, and you might again build that relationship further and go, do you know what, I'm going to give you another sample. I can see, I think it'd be really great for you to experience this oil, and then let's chat and I can help you make a decision after that. But I wouldn't make an announcement in front of the whole class, but sometimes it is a case-by-case situation. That I'll do. I think that's all the questions. Oh, hang on, that was between another one then when I was talking. Oh, hummus, yeah, I do like hummus, and especially with friends. I found hummus doesn't seem to go down well with people that don't know each other, because people don't want to dip. I realized that. I'm not really fussy when it comes to that. I'll dip, whatever. But I did find that some people didn't really like to dip into hummus, and they didn't know people they were dipping into hummus with, which I do understand. But hosted classes, that's a good way of introducing the oils. I love lemon in the hummus, it's my favorite. Yes, so Nicolette, you've asked a good question. Yes, I do. So a live classes, obviously online classes, you'll send the form to them. At a live class, I forgot to say, I will take 3 handouts generally. So one is like a summary of the class. I have the enrollment form, and I have a feedback form. So I generally give them all out at the beginning. That's how I play it. So they have them in their hands, and I just refer to them at the beginning and then more so at the end. But yes, that's when I take all their details down, and then I'll go around with them at the end and just have a chat to them and help them make their decision. And then I'll talk about when I'm going to call them for their wellness consultation. Yeah, so the samples, when you're sampling the host's guests, that's why I want to contact them individually, because I want to find out a specific sample to them. Otherwise, there would be no need to really contact the guests. You could just you just send them, you know, the wild orange or whatever you want to send them. No, I do personalize a sample. I find that much more effective. Now, if it was an online hosted class, slightly, I mean, I still would personalize the sample, but I might even think I might also give a wild orange and peppermint, just a little bit. It doesn't have to be very many drops of each. But again, I like to do hosted classes when they can kind of join along with me and do that wild orange and peppermint experience. So I would generally do that too. Offer them a couple more, which are more general. Okay, Michelle, did you want to take yourself off mute and ask?
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Okay. Hi, Rebecca. So it's a really silly question because this is just always something I can't get my head around, and I'm just trying to figure out. So you get the hosted class. Can this be from anybody who's not even signed up with doTERRA?
Definitely.
And okay, so then their thank you would be the gifts that you give them or the incentives that you've given them.
Mm-hmm.
And what if it is somebody who's signed up? So let's say you've asked somebody to host a class and they just decide they want to sign up as well, and then they've brought people. Would you then would you be the enroller of the person as well as their other people that you put under that person, or would you let them be the enroller?
Okay, yes, it cut out. It was
Mm.
quite background noise, but I think I've got the gist. It's a good question. It's not a silly question at all, Michelle. It's quite a common question that people ask. So it's not black and white. It really depends. If you think that person, there's a chance that person could become a business person, then at the end of the class, I will have a chat to them. And I generally do this anyway, even if I don't think someone could be a business person, but I'll have a chat to someone, the host at the end of the class, and say, oh, look, oh, that was such a good class. It's really exciting. As you're tidying up and the other guests have left. And you say, you could do this as a business. It's a great thing. This is what the business is just literally teaching classes. I have two options. I could either, for you, I could either give you the money, the kind of the worth of money of what I've made from this class into oils. So I'd like to either give you gifts, which depending on how many people are signed up, I'll give you so many gifts or whatever. Or if I put them underneath you, then you make the money from this. So you'll get the money directly to you. But that does mean that then I would teach you how to look after them a bit. Is this something that you're interested in? And so it's more than about finding out whether that's something they're interested in doing. So if they then show interest and say, oh, let me have a think about that. What does that mean, look after them? I say, well, it's not really much. I'll help look after them too. But, when anyone enrolls, I like to give them a little wellness consultation. So I could just teach you how to do that. And then this is perhaps something you could then, if you wanted to, just host a class once a month. Then I could help you with that, and you could earn a bit of money on the side. Or if you're not, or if with other people, I'd get into a proper conversation and kind of gauge from their response, and then go, or if you really don't really have time to do wellness consultations and that kind of puts you off, but you think you would like to host a class every month and just do the same as what you did tonight and just invite people, then I can give you the money that I earned for the class. And then what I would do then is instead of giving them oils, I would probably give them all my fast start, or at least half of the fast start, but still probably make me the enroller, because they're probably not going to get into the business. And then it becomes difficult if someone under them turns into a business person and they've got enrollmentship of them.
Yes.
Whereas you can always hand over enrollment because you understand the business. So it's harder to go to them in the future and go, hey, I haven't seen you for 2 years. Someone underneath you now wants to do the business. Can I have enrollment from you? It's just a bit awkward. So yeah, you can kind of usually gauge. I find I can gauge pretty well, even before a class, but certainly at the end of the class, you can see from their response. There's other grey areas where you think, oh, they've said no to me right now, but I really feel they could be interested in the business. Then you might at least put them underneath them, so being the sponsor and the enroller is different. I would still probably keep enrollmentship because I can always hand over enrollmentship. That's always something you can do. But sponsor, if I think there's a chance they might turn into a builder, I would put them underneath them. Does that make sense? Okay. No, I don't give them the printout of the home essentials. I've done various things in the past. I've kind of come back to just a really simple summary note sheet that I give them, which literally has a bit about the safety, the 3 ways you can take the oils, and then it lists the 10 core oils with literally a sentence underneath to almost jog their memory that just kind of summarizes what the oils can do. And then on the back, they can add their own notes if they want to. So they've got a pen, they can just write their own notes as much as they want to. Yeah, it's nice to have clipboards as you get used to, if you're doing quite frequent live classes, then, I spent so many classes trying to grab something like a book that we could find people to lean on. But yes, I got some clipboards. That's a very good idea. It makes it easier. Just hand out the clipboards with the forms. Okay, I think that's it. Or one new message. Excellent. I love the enthusiasm, Nicolette. We're done. You wanted to come in.
You're talking way too much.
It is. It's really exciting. Like hosted classes, it's cool. It's like you turn up at someone's door and you don't know what to expect, and it's really fun. It's a cool adventure. Enjoy it, and they are, as I said, very effective. So
Right.
that's nice.
Right.
Done.
Switch.
Yes.
Thanks, Bex, for doing
You're
that.
very welcome.
Much appreciated. So hopefully you got lots out of that from Rebecca. So I just wanted to open up. Just if there was anybody that wanted me to look at their structure tonight or anything like that, you're probably all done. I want to do it on the stop, but if you want to, I can. So is there anyone that wants me to go over anything?